always found horror movies more silly than kissing a fish when you catch it, because even though they are fun and scary, the characters are just a whole cluster duck of dumbos. But this movie, this golden slobbering piece of cinema, helps me understand why the horror scene changed completely at the time it was first released into the septic tank of goofy horror films. And if you don't know, Scream 1 follows this guy named Ghostface who is going around a high school killing a bunch of people and is specifically stalking our protagonist Sidney Prescott for some reason. So it's Sidney's job alongside her friends to stop Ghostface and end this giggling rampage. Now this movie came out in 1996, so it's been out for a few minutes, which means I will be openly talking about spoilers just so you burgers know. But with that being said, this movie was awesome. Now usually when it comes to watching old movies, I tend to avoid them because in my experience, they're always so slow and it takes a long time for old movies to actually get to their meat and jelly beans. But Scream just goes straight for the jugular and tells you what this film is about, because the goober in the damn movie poster gets killed in the first 10 minutes of the film, which was more thrilling and terrifying than holding a baby, because you got some great music, some amazing acting, but most of all, you get to meet this droopy blackberry named Ghostface. And he is by far the least intimidating horror movie villain I've ever seen, because you got other bumblebees in the horror movie space that are scary, and he looks like he's wearing pajamas and a skincare mask, and the movie even acknowledges that he's not that scary because characters see him and just assume it's some random donkey in a costume. But when he starts slashing people up like they're avocado, then the characters start leaking in their britches and try to fight back. But on top of that, when the characters do fight back, Ghostface gets hurt. Like with other horror characters, whenever you try to fight them back, it's like fighting a brick wall, or even worse, your dad. Because these goobers are invincible and they can walk faster than you run. But because Ghostface is not a traditional horror villain is exactly why he is so cool. He's just more human than everyone. Like you could still fight him and hurt him, and quite literally, the only advantage he has is a knife. I can literally obsess over Ghostface as a character for hours, but I have to talk about the rest of this YouTube vlog. But just so you know, when you watch Scream, you will love the Ghostface character. Now, the movie thrives off it being a mystery, which means that the audience gets involved as well, because as you may know, the person who also plays Ghostface is hidden within the main cast and revealed in the third act. And as a result, it is so fun to figure out who amongst these TikTok stars is Ghostface. And nothing about this movie feels dragged or empty. For example, the film feels very quick despite it being a 2-hour monster mash, and you get to know every single character very well. You get to know their motivations, their relationships, their Valorant rank. The writing also tries to make you care about everyone, which it accomplishes, especially when people start dying and partying with God upstairs. Now, when it comes to the actual horror, this movie isn't scary in any way, shape, or form, but that's compensated for its gore and violence, especially considering that it's a slasher movie. So if that's something up your belly button, you'll like what this movie offers. And speaking of slashing, the action in this movie is really fun, mainly because it feels sloppy and improvised, because nobody, not even Ghostface, knows how to fight, and they're just throwing punches like they're sloppy hot dogs and grabbing anything they see in hopes that someone gets hurt. Now, one more thing I want to talk about are the Ghostfaces post-reveal. Now, going into this film, I knew who Ghostface already was, and when watching this film, the movie made it oddly super obvious that Billy Loomis was the killer. And with the second killer, you could argue that it could have been anyone, but you could tell Loomis was Ghostface within 10 minutes of knowing the character. The reveal is more obvious than seeing her nose hair sticking out. And that did disappoint me that it wasn't that conspicuous, but again, I knew who Ghostface already was, so I was kind of dealt an unlucky card. But after the reveal that Loomis and Stumacher were the killers, the performances from Skeet, Ulrich, and Matthew Lillard completely stole the show. And that's because they were so evil and cynical, their motivations were fair, and you couldn't help but feel engaged with every single line and monologue they spewed from their choppers. But the guy who shines the most is Lillard. His character became interesting and got my brain firing nerves of excitement like it's Mega Man, but the best performer in the movie was Neve Campbell. She carried the movie like she's a horse and has the scream of a banshee. It's clearly evident why she was the 90s scream queen. But overall, this is a fantastic movie with great action, nipple twisting gore, a story that will get your noodle firing, awesome acting, and one of the coolest horror villains of all time. 4.5 stars.